Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about that huge game up there in State College, Pennsylvania. Ohio State gets a big time win, 20-13 over Penn State, and at least keeps themselves in the fight for that Big Ten title. Have a huge game against Indiana coming up, but as of right now, it looks like Ohio State is right back on track and could be very well be a title contender once again. But let's get into the upsets, because that was the part that all of us were very excited about this past weekend, and all of us are very confused about on this Sunday morning or on this Monday morning, because I don't know which way this season is going to go. But let's start with the easy one. Let's start with Texas A&M, South Carolina. Wow. I did not expect this. I did not think it was going to be this aggressive. I did pick South Carolina to win the game. I did not think it was going to go down like this. But at the end of the day, it was a very interesting game. It felt like early on, South Carolina, it was South Carolina all the way. It felt like South Carolina was going to pull away in this game, was going to win it even uglier than this one, and be able to kind of just get out of here with a massive statement win. Then A&M kind of found their way back into the game. They somehow were able to tie it 20-20 going into halftime, and it took a South Carolina field goal to even tie it going into halftime. So A&M was able to find their footing. Marcel Reed was able to make a couple of plays, and they really got rolling downhill. Le'Veon Moss went out, which has a huge amount to do with what happened in the second half. Not everything, because they scored 24 points on you in the second half. It was 24-0 in that second half, and something that they badly need to figure out if you're A&M, because I don't necessarily think the problem was, I don't want to say it this way. I think they do have issues. I think mainly it was broken tackles. You cannot have so many broken tackles in a game and feel like you're going to have a successful performance. Period. End of story. The thing is, they still got a lot of pressure. They still got home a lot of times, and I'll talk about that here in a second, but really something that 44 is terrible, and you shouldn't get scored on 44 points. I don't think it was quite as bad for that A&M defense. I think Lenora Sellers was just on another planet, which is something that I'll talk about here right now, because it was remarkable what this kid was able to do in this game. I understand he didn't complete 50% of his passes. I don't care. He found his way out of so many bad situations. He made so many great plays. He made so many great reads, and he was the reason that offense was so lethal. Now, Rocket Sanders gave him plenty of help. 20 carries, 144 yards, and 2 scores, so he was more than fine as well. But Lenora Sellers handling this offense, he's a totally different player than he was early on this season. It's really remarkable to see what he's been capable of doing. And then he had Josh Simon to throw the ball to. We talked about him in the preview saying he was a big-time player for this game. Well, he showed up. 4 carries, 4 catches, 132 yards, 2 scores. He was absolutely remarkable and had the knockout score late in that game. So really remarkable. A lot of missed tackles on both those guys. So something A&M's definitely going to have to polish up. For A&M, it hurts. There's no two ways about that. You got to figure out that quarterback situation. I think Marcel Reed's a really good player. I think he's more than capable. I don't know if he gives you the better chance to win against the elite teams in this conference. And I know that sounds a little bit counterintuitive because he just beat LSU. But if you know the circumstances in which he beat LSU, I think it kind of sway your opinion just a little bit. So A&M, everything's still on the table. You still feel pretty good about where you are going forward, but definitely some things to figure out, particularly that quarterback position. And it's hard to find a silver lining here. I fully understand that A&M fans are really struggling to find one, but you got to Sellers a ton. And you're not going to face a quarterback coming forward that has the escapability of Lenora Sellers. I promise you. If you get to the quarterback the way you did today against Auburn, Peyton Thorne's going to go down way more. Against Texas, Quinn Ewers is going to go down way more than Lenora Sellers did, and that was what really hurt you. So I understand this is a very frustrating performance, and there's a lot more things that need to be fixed than just, getting a quarterback on the ground. But at the end of the day, you figure that out, you get the quarterback play just a little bit better, you're still very much in the race for the CFP. And then for South Carolina, a huge win. They've had multiple chances this year against LSU and Bama, and for some reasons beyond their control, those games were not wins. But at the end of the day, this is a program that could be very dangerous in 2025, and honestly, if things go awry in November, a 9-3 South Carolina would possibly get my vote for the CFP. But that's something we will handle later on in the season. Obviously, would take a lot from South Carolina, 3 straight wins to finish out the season. But moving forward, we got a couple more to talk about here. Iowa State falls to Texas Tech in a game where it's a funny one. It keeps Texas Tech in the fight and very much important for the Red Raiders down the stretch of this season, and sets up a really good one against Colorado next week. For Iowa State, doesn't change too much. You still win out. You're still in Arlington at the end of the year. As crazy as that sounds, I think the tiebreaker with Colorado works out. Again, everything I say is about 95% confidence because these tiebreakers are all over the place, and we'll figure out what happens with those down the stretch. But we talked about Taj Brooks when previewing this game. He had 25 carries, 122 yards in the game-winning score. He was the reason that they won this game. Now, the pass game did get to work. It was pretty much just Josh Kelly and no one else, really. But at the end of the day, it was Taj Brooks that really got them this win. Absolutely massive for them. And for Iowa State, just left way too much on the table. A turnover on down, 2 turnovers, a missed field goal that would have given them the lead late in this game did them in. So mistake-free football is what you need from Iowa State going forward. Definitely something where I think they can figure it out. I think this might have just been one game blip, but at the end of the day, definitely some worries as we head back to the home stretch of the season if you're Iowa State. Really impressive performance, or a really impressive drive in particular from Texas Tech to get this win. Baron Morton led them down the field in less than 2 minutes, and they only scored with about 20 seconds left on the clock. Because if you've watched Iowa State this year, they are more than capable of pulling rabbits out of the hat late in the game, so they didn't even give them that chance. They gave them 20 seconds to work with, and that game was over pretty quickly. So a huge win for Texas Tech, and I think if you're Iowa State, where you move forward from here is just win out. If you win out, you're good. And you have Kansas, you have Cincinnati, you have Utah, and then a huge one against Kansas State at the end of the year, so which is at your place. So you win those 4 games, you're in Arlington, you're playing for a spot in the CFP. So as much as this one hurts, as much as you got to reset, everything is still very much on the table for the Cyclones team. For Texas Tech, they needed it. There's no two ways about that. They absolutely needed this one, a huge win for them, and now they got Colorado coming to town. They win that one, they're still alive for one more week, and if Iowa State falls one more time, maybe they bump up to the top and can find their way into the Big 12 title. So they stay alive. They're one of those teams that has a path somehow to the CFP, and this is one that they needed. They were able to get it. Now they need another one against Colorado this upcoming weekend. But moving forward to Clemson, this was a splattering. I understand this is only a 12-point win for Louisville. It felt like a 30-point win. It was absolute domination from start to finish, and I very much apologize to anyone that followed me down the road of Clemson because, boy, was I wrong. I definitely thought this team had found something. I thought this offense was going to get going. I felt like Cade Klubnik was playing really, really confident football. And then they just played a team with a pulse. They played a team that actually could match up with them physically to a certain extent, and man, did they. They were physically imposing in this game. Louisville had 27 carries, 210 yards, 7.8 yards per carry, and Isaac Brown, one of the guys we talked about, he had to get going in this game, 151 yards. So he did more than enough in this game. Really remarkable stuff from that run game win. I really didn't think that was going to be an option for them in this game. I thought if they were going to win this one, they were going to have to throw downfield, no doubt about it. And on the other side, Dabo Swinney's decision-making late in this game, I don't even know what was going through his head. They scored twice late in this game to cut the lead to 13. And with 6 minutes left and with 2 minutes left, they cut the lead to 13. You go for 2. It's not analytics. It's not anything special. It's very, very basic math. Being down 13, being down 12 in that scenario is no different. Being down 11 gives you a shot to kick a field goal, get a 2-point conversion on a touchdown, and be tied. I don't understand how that's possible. I don't understand how you make that decision twice in a game where you badly need to win it when it's not even analytics, it's just math. It's just very, very basic math. I have no idea what he was thinking there, and I'm not one to go after coaches too often. I'll do it in this respect because that was as glaring of a bad decision as I've ever seen when it comes to clock management and when it comes to those type of situations where if you're down 14, you go for 2. That's an analytics play. If you're down 13, you always go for 2. That's just a math play. But at the end of the day, remarkable stuff from this Louisville defense. Clemson ran 101 plays in this game. Absolutely insane. They won the time of possession, by 16 minutes. And the defense just kept making plays for Louisville. Really remarkable stuff. And where they go from here, I don't know. I think if you're Louisville, you got to feel really good. You got a big-time win. You keep moving forward, and I don't necessarily think they're going to be a huge factor in the ACC as things have started to shake out there. But at the end of the day, a very respectable 9-3 season after going to the ACC title last year. Jeff Brom's building something over there in Louisville, and it feels like it's really rolling downhill. And if you have Isaac Brown doing that type of stuff, you got a really confident kid going down the stretch of this season. And then for Clemson, this was the knockout punch. I could sit here and say if chaos happens in front of them and they sneak into the ACC title and whatever, It's not going to happen. This team has officially fallen out of the CFP race, likely the ACC race. They would need SMU to fall, get a win over Virginia Tech and Pitt. I think they would need SMU to fall twice. It's not going to happen. They are not going to make the ACC championship. They are not going to make the CFP, and the questions around Dabo Swinney continue to mount. So it's one of those things that when they lost the Georgia game, we immediately had questions about the approach of this program. We're going to immediately have questions after this one, and if they lose another one, we'll have questions around that one. So it's going to be a weird offseason. I can almost promise you that. In Clemson, South Carolina, maybe it'll lead to a couple of changes around that program's approach. If I know anything about Dabo Swinney, it won't, but we'll see what happens. And then we got to get into another Big 12 game because Kansas State, I don't know how you lost this game. I'll be totally honest with you. You were up 9 points going into the fourth quarter. You get outscored 14-0 in the fourth quarter, and against a team that you should never get outscored 14-0 in a quarter against. I like Houston. It's a huge win for this Houston program. Willie Fritz and company have been looking for this game. They've been looking for so many different games throughout the season. Just get that statement, because one thing that's kind of, I guess, overshadowed throughout the season is these teams like Houston, these teams like Arizona State playing really good football, this team like Georgia Tech over in the ACC. They need a couple of these wins. They need a win to prove to all of the recruits around them that they are moving in the right direction. This is a huge win for them and definitely gives them a place where this offseason at least they can attack recruiting and feel really confident that they can get some of the really talented guys in their home city. It'll be really interesting to see what this program is going forward, but this feels like one of those wins that every program that is successful going forward has in their first season. He finally got it, and it feels like they could be rolling downhill, and not enough can be said about Zion Chris coming into this game in a very, very interesting kind of area. It wasn't necessarily the perfect situation when he came in for Donovan Smith a couple of weeks ago, but he was perfect Saturday. He went 11 for 11, passing the ball 103 yards and 1 touchdown. He also had 75 yards and 2 scores on the ground. The dude is absolutely remarkable and makes life just incredibly tough for any defense he faces. I absolutely love the kid, and frankly, I think he's going to be a dude next year. And then Kansas State officially does not control their own destiny. They're going to need another loss from Colorado. They do have the tiebreaker, so if Texas Tech were to beat Colorado this upcoming weekend, I think they would then be above Colorado and probably be still in the fight for the Big 12 title. I don't know how it would work with that Texas Tech team, but at the end of the day, they would at least be in the fight. You beat Iowa State at the end of the year, maybe you're in it. It'll be very interesting to watch that shake out, but at the end of the day, Kansas State takes a very, very tough hit, and I think where you go from here is just you got to try to win out. If you can win that Iowa State game, at least you give yourself a shot. I do think that Texas Tech would get in front of them because of tiebreakers and all that craziness, but at the end of the day, you'll give yourself a shot, and that's all you can ask for. Maybe Colorado loses this weekend, and then Texas Tech falls later in the year, and you find yourself in the Big 12 title. But at the end of the day, it feels like a big missed opportunity. It feels like they had a chance to really put their stamp on this conference, and they left it on the table. And then for Houston, massive win. You absolutely need this for recruiting. You absolutely need this for 2025. They get another shot with BYU at the end of the year. If they're able to win that one, things get really interesting. But they can go bowling with wins over Arizona and Baylor. Baylor's proving to be a little bit tougher than we thought early in the season. Arizona proving to be a lot softer than we thought early in the season. But at the end of the day, a very huge win for this team. And regardless of if they go bowling or not, this is one that is going to help them on the recruiting trail. I can promise you that. But remarkable games. So many big-time upsets and so many games that did not see coming. One that I did, South Carolina, but at the end of the day, a lot of people saw that one coming. I don't know if a lot of people saw Louisville coming in the way that they did, but really remarkable stuff from all of those teams. But let's take our second break here. And when we come back, we got to talk about Indiana and SMU. These were the two performances that I was most taken aback by or most impressed by this past weekend, and I want to break them down for you right after this.